Hi, and welcome to the Making of MiTek. I'm Tom Manenti, Executive Chairman of MiTek Industries, Inc. I happen to be in my 40th year with the company, which somewhat qualifies me to share the history. On behalf of the entire leadership team, I just want you to know that we're thrilled that you're a member of the MiTek family. I want to take a few minutes to introduce you to our company, which means our history, our culture, and our way of working with people, starting with you, our purpose partners. Purpose partners. It's what many of us call each other in the world of MiTek. Yes, we're employees, or team members, or associates. But I like purpose partners because I feel we truly are partnering to pursue a common purpose, which is our vision to live and work in celebration and see MiTek products and services in every structure worldwide. The time you spend watching and listening to this presentation will be time well invested, because you'll come away with a solid understanding of how MiTek started and evolved, and what informs our views, and what drives our direction, our decisions, and simply our way of life. When you're finished, it's my hope that you'll come away with a strong sense of pride and excitement for what you've now become a part of, and what you can look forward to, and why you and your contribution are so important to the company. Okay, so let's get started. I'll begin with a high-level view of who MiTek is today, and then I'll back up a bit and give you some history so you can better understand how we got to the present. As I'm recording this in mid-2017, MiTek as an enterprise generates roughly $1.5 billion in revenue. That's more than double our revenue of only 5 years ago. We're owned by Berkshire Hathaway, and I report directly to Warren Buffett. I'm honored to say that our new CEO, my successor, is now in place. His name is Mark Tom, and I couldn't be happier for MiTek and our purpose partners. The future is certainly bright, and much of our growth has occurred through acquisition, especially in recent years. And today, we're comprised of nearly 50 operating companies worldwide that serve the residential and commercial construction industries, as well as certain industrial markets. And MiTek is the leader in virtually every market where we currently do business. Earlier, I used the term purpose partner, which, as I mentioned, is what we call our employees. The core values of our company are primarily based on people-first principles, and we believe you are our most valuable asset in the business, with all other resources a distant second. So what are the principles and values that drive our company? Our 7 core values are integrity, a passion for the customer, teamwork, empowered purpose partners, there's that term again, commitment to excellence, relationship-driven, and ownership-minded. So let me take these one at a time and also mention a brief guiding principle behind each core value. Integrity. First and foremost, in everything we do, we keep our promises. We walk our talk and always do the right thing. Passion for the customer. We value our customers as the lifeblood of our business, demonstrated in everything we do. Our relentless pursuit is to build stronger working relationships, to understand our customers' needs, and to help them succeed in achieving their own business objectives. And we accomplish this one customer at a time. Teamwork. Success for MiTek requires every member of the team throughout the organization to recognize and treat all team members as equally important, regardless of the position that they play. Empowered purpose partners. We're driven by a clear sense of our purpose and values, and each member of the MiTek team is entrusted with the use of resources and decision-making in their area of accountability. Empowering our people begins with empowering our leaders. Commitment to excellence. In everything we do, we're committed to delivering the highest level of quality and innovation, both in what we create and in how we perform. Relationship-driven. Our business is built on relationships that grow and last, internally with MiTek purpose partners and externally with our customers and our suppliers. Last but not least, ownership-minded. Each of us are responsible for the health, care, growth, feeding, and profit in our roles in our respective areas of the business. even if it means we're only in charge of ourselves and our decisions. We have an entire class dedicated to MiTek's 7 core values called the MiTek Promise, which if you haven't already done so, you'll be required to participate in as part of your overall onboarding experience. To better understand why our core values and guiding principles are foundational, let's talk a bit about the vision of MiTek as an enterprise. Now, that's the second time I've referred to the MiTek enterprise. It's not the Starship enterprise, but what I mean by enterprise is simply the combination of all the business units that make up the company we call MiTek Industries, Inc., which is the parent company. MiTek's vision embraces both our internal and external aspirations. Living and working in celebration, our vision is to see MiTek in every structure worldwide. This is what is sometimes referred to around the company as having fun while going about the serious business of MiTek. In 2012, we began the certification journey to become a people-first company. 140 leaders completed 12 weeks of training in order for the company to become people-first certified. In week 4, the session was on destiny, and it was in this session that we created MiTek's mission and vision statements. Our mission statement was fairly easy to come up with, since it's basically about who we are and what we do. So here's the MiTek mission statement. MiTek is the industry leader in every market we serve worldwide. Inspired by our core values, we are a people-first company with outrageously engaged purpose partners, delivering unrivaled software, products, and services to our customers, giving them a recognized competitive advantage. Our customer success drives our success. Our vision statement, on the other hand, is who we aspire to be. It's meant to border on the unachievable, designed to keep us striving toward a bold and audacious goal. During our People First certification training, every leader submitted a candidate vision statement. Then the leaders were placed in teams of 4 or 5, and they submitted a single candidate vision statement from each team. I went home that weekend with 30 candidate vision statements, and I was to select one. I found one I liked. MiTek in every structure. Simple and bold, but it wasn't complete. So I added worldwide on the end to represent all of MiTek around the globe, but it still didn't feel right. So on Monday, I asked to see the other 110 candidate vision statements to see if I could find one that would make our vision statement a bit more meaningful. I came across one that was submitted by one of our plant managers, someone who had been with the company for more than 30 years and came up through the ranks working in our tool and die shop. It was simple: to live and work in celebration. I sat there and simply said to myself, wow. By placing that phrase on the front of the already excellent vision statement, we literally put our people first and still included our overarching business goal: living and working in celebration, MiTek in every structure worldwide. When I shared it with our senior leadership team, they all concurred. And the MiTek vision statement was born. I couldn't have been more proud. Thank you for allowing me to tell that all-important story in the history of our company. My fiduciary responsibility is, and has been, to ensure that MiTek grows profitably. My passion has been to lead people in a safe environment where we all treat each other with dignity, respect, and honor, regardless of our role in the company. In 2014, I asked the worldwide senior leadership team to read the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek. I've often been asked, what do you believe to be MiTek's why? It's not an easy question to answer, as most executives tend to revert to what we do or how we go about doing it, and that still doesn't answer the why question. The why question completes the sentence, we exist to do something in order to bring about something. Now, I've come to believe that MiTek's why is simply to enrich the lives of every person we encounter, to make a positive impact on every life. So let me repeat that in the context of the why sentence. We exist to enrich the lives of every person we encounter in order to make a positive impact on every life. Many of my CEO colleagues have asked me if I believe leading by our people-first methods is a better way to lead. My standard answer is no, it's not a better way to lead. It is, however, in my humble opinion, the only way to lead effectively, generating and sustaining exceptional results for the long term. Why? Because it promotes discretionary effort on the part of our purpose partners, and not the malicious obedience that's so prevalent in a workforce where caring about people is not only not practiced, it's not even encouraged. People do business with those they trust and they like, assuming our products and services are competitive in performance and value. So what that means is that people really don't buy from us because of our what or our how. They buy from us because of our why. Okay, with all that as the current backdrop, let's dive into the history of MiTek, where we came from, and how we got to where we are today. For the first 50 years of our existence, MiTek's primary product was the punched metal connector plate, sometimes called a nail plate or truss plate, and often referred to generically as a gang nail. The fact is, that product was invented in 1955 by an engineer named John Calvin Juriat, who we knew as Cal, and he trademarked the product and called it the gang nail connector. We still protect the gang nail trademark to this day, even though the product is generically called a gang nail, similar to all facial tissues being generically called Kleenex and bandages for cuts being called Band-Aids. A year later, in 1956, Cal started the company Gang Nail Systems in Miami, Florida, and the company stamped the metal connectors, invented and sold assembly machinery, and provided engineering services to companies who made prefabricated wood roof trusses for houses. Cal and his brother Bill and a few other early pioneers at Gang Nail Systems helped to revolutionize the home building industry by providing a way to make these wood roof systems that were at least structurally equal, more economical, and could be erected faster than traditional site framing methods. As this method of construction became popular, others entered the industry with their own version of the metal connector plate. Around 1960, a St. Louis businessman named Walter Molenpaugh expanded his hydraulics business known as Molenpaugh Industries and entered the residential housing market by patenting his own version of a punched tooth connector plate to make prefabricated trusses. Molenpaugh also manufactured machinery to apply the connector plates in a similar manner as Cal Juriat at Gang Nail. Using Cal Juriat as a model, Walter had also established satellite operations in Africa, Australia, Canada, and Europe, and by the mid-1970s, he had a very profitable company. However, by 1980, during one of the housing's deep recessions, the market had tanked and Walter's company, by then called Hydroware Engineering, was barely showing a profit. The seeds of the modern-day MiTek were sown in 1980. That's when Paul Cornelsen, vice chairman of Ralston Purina, made the decision to pursue other interests and leave the company he had spent so many years with. He'd previously served as a director on the board of Boatman's Bank in St. Louis, later to become part of the Bank of America group, and he was close friends with the bank's president. And Paul received a call from Boatman's asking for his help to turn around a client company that was experiencing financial trouble. So Paul agreed to talk with the owner of that client company and with its board of directors. The company was Hydroware Engineering, and the owner was Walter Molenpaugh. After reviewing each of the Hydroware operations over a 6-month period, Cornelsen believed he had a formula to turn Walter's company around. The catch, however, was that he would only take on this challenge if he owned the company. So in 1982, these two businessmen entered into an agreement that resulted in Molenpaugh selling the company to Cornelsen. Now, I didn't know this until many years later, but Paul put very little of his own money into it, and he borrowed quite a bit to make the purchase. heavily leveraged, as we like to more eloquently say. So with Hydraware now in his hands, albeit heavily leveraged, Cornelsen set about to implement the changes he believed would lead to sustained profitability. Among the initiatives, Paul renegotiated supply contracts. He restructured customer agreements and streamlined manufacturing operations, which, by the way, was his forte. Within 2 years, the company was showing signs of improvement, real growth, and generating steady profits. During this process, Cornelsen learned from customers that the software Hydraware provided to design trusses and generate production documents was the key to their value as a supplier. So what began as a product-driven industry, that cool invention, the metal connector plate, was now becoming an engineering and software-driven industry. Down in Miami, Gangnell was finding out the exact same thing. Paul also learned that the Hydraware software had fallen behind its competitors, lacking many desired features, and was in need of a more advanced technology platform. The bottom line, without better software, Hydraware's position in the market would be seriously compromised. So by the end of 1982, Cornelsen was a firm believer in the need for quality, comprehensive software as a key driver of Hydraware's business and the company's future. Here's a quick side story. Many people over the years have asked, where did the name MiTek come from? Well, as Paul thought about the software and the role technology was going to play in the company's value to its customers, he also wanted to create a new identity that would bring this technology into the company name. Well, Paul had mentioned this to his secretary one day, and she suggested that what the company provided wasn't high-tech, and it wasn't low-tech. That only left mid-tech, which is where the name MiTek came from, middle technology. An odd way to come up with a company name, but Paul grabbed hold of the concept and he moved forward with the shorter, snappier version. Hence, the modern-day MiTek was born. With the organization's new identity now in place, Cornelsen forged an agreement with one of the leading software organizations in the industry at the time, and he purchased 42% of online data of Richardson, Texas. Paul hoped this would enable Hydraware's software developers to create new and more advanced software, placing MiTek on top of the market. One of Hydraware's chief competitors in the market was that Miami-based organization, Gangnell Systems. Gangnell was larger than Hydraware and had offices and factories in more locations than they did. And Gangnell's software was perceived in the market as being superior to Hydraware's. But in 1978, Cal Juriat had sold Gangnell Systems to a British firm, Redland plc, a global company in the roof tile business. Redland planned to expand Gangnell's presence in every market, especially the United States. Along with all this, Paul Cornelsen had a falling out with the folks at Online Data. Paul expected to have some say in the software's development, and his partners in Online, Dan and Camilla Hurwitz, thought otherwise. What Paul didn't know was that Gangnell was feeling some anxiety over the Hydraware Online merger. Gangnell's new leader, Carlos Rionda, believed if Hydraware developed superior software, that would cause Gangnell customers to possibly jump ship and into the Hydraware camp. It was a valid concern to have. In the 1980s, both Hydraware and Gangnell made some acquisitions. The most notable of these for Hydraware were DePaul Machinery, they made saws, and Panelclip, who made truss plates. For Gangnell, they were Idaco Engineering, made saws, and P.H. Bowman, who also made truss plates. So both Hydraware and Gangnell were otherwise quiet on the acquisition front until the big one. Around that time, a Redland executive approached Cornelsen about a buyout with an offer to Cornelsen to stay on as chief executive. Paul said he would think about the offer. About the same time, which was either late 1986 or early 1987, in a tragic twist of fate, Paul and Floyd Cornelsen's only child died suddenly of a heart attack at the age of 40. Their son, John Cornelsen, was about to be appointed to the MiTek board with the thought of him succeeding Paul one day. Sadly, that was no longer a succession option. After a few months and in a bold move, Cornelsen informed Redland that he would not be taking them up on their offer. Instead of selling to them, Paul would pursue a plan to have Hydroware acquire the larger Gangnail. Paul had become acquainted with a former executive of Redland named David Lyon, who was now the managing director, that's the president, of another firm, Bowater plc, a British conglomerate. David Lyon had always loved the construction business and the people involved at Gangnail. I knew David very well. So Paul teamed up with David and Bowater, and MiTek completed the Gangnail acquisition in November of 1987 as a 50-50 joint venture with Bowater. However, Paul retained 51% of the voting stock. He'd learned a hard lesson from the online data 42% investment. Paul used to say, when you own 42% of something, you really don't own a thing. Minority interest gives you zero control and very little influence. After the joint venture acquisition, Gangnail and Hydroware continued to operate under the same ownership, but independently in the marketplace from a brand standpoint over the next 3 years. Unfortunately, or maybe inevitably, the investment and the relationship with online data turned sour. So Paul Cornelsen hired a young computer science whiz named David McQuinn. Dave was a brilliant manager with a degree in computer science and mathematics from SIUE and a master's in business and finance from Clemson. He was the right guy at the right time for Paul Cornelsen and MiTek. As a side note, a few years later, Paul sold the 42% interest back to the majority owners of Online Data, only to have it land back in the lap of MiTek in 2006 when we acquired the Tampa firm Robbins Engineering. Robbins was a direct connector plate competitor who had bought 100% of Online a few years before. So back to 1987. Dave McQuinn's nearly impossible task was to resuscitate Hydroware's PowerCalc design program and make it competitive in the marketplace. Dave was somewhat successful in rebuilding PowerCalc, and that, along with the acquisition of Gangnail and their AutoTrust software, put MiTek in a more solid market position. But there's another side note, and a really important one in the whole MiTek story. When MiTek acquired Gangnail Systems, along with the connector and machinery business was a foundering division called Gangnail Wood Products. This was a 4-year-old division that was manufacturing a line of engineered wood products known as Ganglam LVL and GNI joists, and it was in direct competition with Trust Joist, which is now part of the Weyerhaeuser enterprise. The Wood Products division was reformulated into a separate corporation named MiTek Wood Products, Inc., and former Gangnail president Carlos Rionda was sent to run it. Carlos, by the way, was the sales executive who hired me back in 1977. So concurrent with Carlos going to run the Wood Products business, I was promoted to president of Gangnail Systems. Mike Conforti was already president of Hydroware, and we continued to operate the company separately in the marketplace. I feel compelled to share a side note about Mike Conforti. Mike and I were competitors, but Mike never met a stranger. He and I got to know each other quite well over the 3 years we ran the respective U.S. business units for MiTek. I learned a lot from Mike, one notion being what Mike always called the rule of reason. Mike became a mentor to me as he was to so many at MiTek. He was revered in the industry, winning election to the WTCA, now SBCA, Hall of Fame in 1994, a real honor for a supplier. Mike helped many of us in the transformation that took place at MiTek all throughout the 1990s. Sadly, Mike passed away in November of 2000. But we continue to draw on Mike's wisdom and his relational approach to business. He's surely missed. In 1989, for a variety of reasons, Paul decided to make a leadership change at MiTek Wood Products, and he hired a young executive from Sunoco Products, a spinoff from Boise Cascade. That executive was Gene Toombs, and Paul tapped him to be the new president of MiTek Wood Products. For those who are aware that we currently have a young executive named Gene Toombs, young Gene is Gene the Fourth, and he's the son of the executive who took over MiTek Wood Products in 1989. So Gene, the elder, took over the faltering wood products business and immediately set about evaluating the organization, the competitive landscape, supply lines, and every facet of the business. And after a short while, Gene realized it just wasn't a good fit for MiTek. With so many areas that needed to be fixed, and there was very little capital available to do it. So with Paul Cornelson's approval, I should say his blessing, in July 1990, Gene negotiated the sale of MiTek Wood Products to Louisiana Pacific Corporation. Besides unloading a business that was out of alignment for us at the time, we received much welcome cash, which became strategically vital for our company. And then along came another housing recession. At the end of 1990, the internal management board of MiTek decided it was time to restructure the company. To minimize the financial impact of the impending 1991 recession, Hydroware and Gangnail were merged under one banner, MiTek Industries, Inc. And for the first time, we were going to market with one brand, one sales force, one engineering department, and working on a plan to have one software platform. We closed our Miami operation and moved the Florida stamping to Tampa. Several of us who came up under Gangnail moved to the Chesterfield, Missouri area. At the time of this video in mid-2017, the only folks remaining from Gangnail who are still working in the Chesterfield office are Colette Jean, Dave Wirt, and myself. In 1991, Paul and Gene began to put the cash from the sale of MiTek Wood Products to good use by paying off MiTek's long-term debt and acquiring competitors, BMAX, Aces Engineering, and Interlock Steel. We acquired a few other small competitors in the 90s, including Metal Lock in California and TCA in Florida, both truss plate manufacturers. We acquired Diamond Machinery, manufacturer of truss assembly equipment, and Wall Plus, a software company. In 1990, on a parallel path with Gene's pursuit of truss connector competitors to acquire, Dave McQuinn and his group embarked on a brand new software project. Defying the obvious at the time and deciding against developing on IBM's OS/2 platform, Dave embraced this new Microsoft technology called Windows. And that's how MiTek developed the very first native Microsoft Windows truss design program and called it MiTek 2000, later renamed MiTek 2020. It was unveiled at the 1992 Building Component Manufacturers Conference, BCMC. Customers were stunned by its progressive approach to truss design, using a multi-user, multitasking graphical user interface. They couldn't wait to get their hands on it, and a star was born. So with Paul's retirement in 1993, when he sold his remaining interest to Bowater, Toombs succeeded Paul as chairman, president, and CEO of MiTek. Gene set out to make MiTek the undisputed leader in the truss connector machinery industry with the best available software, products, sales professionals, engineering support, and technology. Bringing this aggressive approach to the market, MiTek made strategic acquisitions that would complete this vision. And despite the occasional market downturns at various times from 1993 to 2000, Gene Toombs remained true to his vision, enabling MiTek to grow and prosper while the competition fell farther and farther behind. In 1995, Bowater reorganized their business, renaming the company Rexam, and they began to streamline it by selling off their non-core subsidiaries. By the year 2000, MiTek, not being a core business of Rexam, was placed on the block to be sold. But because of our strong financials, few companies had the cash to satisfy Rexam's demands for a fair price. MiTek was nearly sold in December of 2000 to a private equity firm, but the deal fell through at the 11th hour when the buyer pushed Rexam for a haircut, which is lowering of the purchase price. So in February of 2001, Gene Toombs learned that Warren Buffett of Berkshire Hathaway had a certain criteria that he considered when making acquisitions. That criteria was even published in Fortune magazine in an article by Carol Loomis. That became the inspiration for Gene to make the most important phone call in the history of our company. So with permission from Rexham's dubious CEO, Gene picked up the phone and called Warren Buffett. Mr. Buffett wasn't in the office that day, so his secretary suggested that Gene send Warren a letter. Now, Toombs was pretty skeptical, but he and MiTek's CFO at the time, Ron Burkhart, prepared a packet of information for Warren Buffett, including an actual connector plate, which they embedded in a piece of styrofoam. I guess they didn't want to draw blood from one of the richest men in the world. We later learned that Warren was intrigued by what he saw when he opened that packet. He said he needed to talk to the leader of the company that generated those financial results, selling millions of these little chunks of metal. So Buffett contacted Gene to discuss MiTek. He liked what he heard, and on July 31st of 2001, with all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, MiTek became a member of the Berkshire Hathaway family of companies. The Berkshire Hathaway acquisition only enhanced Gene's ability to fulfill his quest for MiTek. Key acquisitions of additional companies, making truss connectors, software, machinery, and related products continued throughout the first decade of the new century. We acquired such companies as CompuTruss, Hardy Frames, Jaeger Industries, Koskovich Machinery, Robbins Engineering, T-Lock, and several others. Additionally, anticipating the need to become less dependent on residential construction, and with this decision coming years before the great housing recession, MiTek's first diversification play came in 2003 with the acquisition of TBS Engineering, a battery machinery business that was familiar to Toombs because it was previously owned by Rexham. And MiTek also had key business units focused on light gauge steel framing and metal shear panels and bracing connections and anchoring devices and other systems designed for the commercial and non-wood construction markets. So in the middle of the global financial crisis, MiTek began to diversify even more. In 2008, MiTek acquired Homan and Bernard, and we quickly tucked in an acquisition for H&B called BlockLock in Ontario, Canada. Then came TMI Custom Air and a small software company called Simpad. In 2009 came Side Plate Systems, Heat Pipe Technology, and Aegis Metal Framing. And in 2010, we added Gangnail Brazil, as well as bolt-ons, Durowall for H&B and Rush Air for TMI. In early 2011, we completed the acquisitions of United Steel Products, USP, in the US and Canada, as well as bolt-ons, Sandell Industries for H&B, and BTG, now known as TBS Canada for TBS Engineering. Things were quiet on the acquisition front in 2012 as the company aggressively gained market share at USP. And that was until 2013 when we closed on 5 acquisitions in the final 5 months of that year. That's when we acquired Benson Industries, Cubic Designs, Cova Solutions, and bolt-ons RKL Industries for H&B and the Tips Wizard equipment business for MiTek USA. Then, in March 2014, we acquired Ellis & Watts, a manufacturer of custom-engineered industrial HVAC systems, at the time focusing on nuclear facilities. At this point in time, MiTek was no longer nearly 100% reliant on the residential housing market. By 2014, the residential segment accounted for 55% of MiTek revenue, however, still more than 60% of our operating income on a global basis. And as we often say around the company, our residential segment is still the mothership. In 2015, we acquired M&M Manufacturing, a leading manufacturer of HVAC sheet metal products and other custom items used in commercial and residential structures. We also acquired Builder MT, a leading provider of business workflow software for production home builders. In 2016, MiTek acquired Sales Simplicity, another strategically vital software company providing CRM and other sales performance software to production home builders. In 2017, a number of companies joined the MiTek family. Platinum Global is a Vietnam-based truss design and detailing service. Brightsoft added leading HVAC layout and design software to our stable of thoroughbreds. Also coming on board was DIY Technologies, who develops and delivers residential deck detailing and design software. We acquired 2KP, an England-based polymers and epoxy manufacturer. We added a company called Snappy, a bolt-on to M&M Manufacturing, who's also in the sheet metal ductwork industry. And last but not least, we were fortunate enough to have UK-based Mezzanine International join MiTek as the European leader in engineered industrial mezzanine systems. But going back a bit, in January 2008, I decided to retire from MiTek. I had a few things I wanted to do in the nonprofit world, and I had every intention of making it my life work for the rest of my productive days. Even though the country, the world actually, was in a financial crisis, I was perfectly fine doing what I was doing, and I'd not given a second thought to returning to corporate life, even though I'd had several lucrative offers presented to me over that time. In the summer of 2009, Gene Toombs called me and said he wanted me to consider coming back to MiTek to succeed him as CEO. Knowing me pretty well, Gene immediately said, "And don't say no just yet. At least give it some thought until we can get together for lunch." So I did, and I discussed it with my wife, Kathy, and we agreed that this was the only opportunity I'd accept to come back into the business world. So in October 2009, Gene Toombs announced that I was coming back to MiTek to be his successor, and I re-entered on November 1st as Chief Operating Officer. I was promoted to Chief Executive Officer of the enterprise on January 1st, 2011, and added the Chairman of the Board role in 2012. In Gene's 2009 announcement, he said that he expected me to lead MiTek to the next level. And with the able assistance of an outstanding professional senior executive team, we've been privileged to see MiTek climb to new heights. With operations now on 6 continents, with more than 6,000 purpose partners doing business in 93 countries, the expansion of MiTek's presence from a global perspective means that the company is well positioned to take advantage of emerging markets in Asia, Eastern Europe, and South America, as well as the traditional markets in Africa, Australia, Europe, New Zealand, and North America. MiTek is consistently advancing and growing with the market, in the market, and in some cases, in spite of the market. Finally, the development of the industry's very first and comprehensive residential supply chain software, which we call the Sapphire Software Suite, is a clear indication that MiTek will continue to be the leader in every market served in residential construction well into the future. Residential siblings, commercial construction, and industrial systems are also executing their respective strategies to enhance the enterprise value of MiTek year after year with the best possible people, exceptional financial performance, leadership development, and long-term profitable growth that will simply render the competition irrelevant. While the management team recognizes that we do have competitors, we respectfully maintain that if we continue to successfully carry out the key business imperatives of the corporation, we'll continue to generate extraordinary results. Being inclusive is a big deal to me. I don't like leaving folks out of a good thing when we're doing that at MiTek. So after 140 of our leaders went through the 12-week certification training in 2012, and with not a small dose of encouragement and nudging from my friend Jack Lanham, the author of People First, I knew we needed something with a shorter time span, yet would still certify individuals as People First trained leaders. Our very own Senior Vice President of Culture and People Services, which we call HR, Bonnie Daniels, worked closely with People First founder Jack Lanham, Master People First trainer Dan Phillips, as well as one of Jack's organizational behavior specialist, PJ Bouchard, to develop the 2-day People First leadership training program, the flagship class we continue to teach today. It's immersion training, which covers everything and more that was covered in the 12-week program. And a few weeks before a class, I send a letter to all class participants requesting that they read the People First book. I ask them to send me an email citing one thing that stood out to them. I call these emails the dialogue. Sometimes I get an email before the training and sometimes following the training. And since I started keeping track in 2012, the dialogue, as of May of 2017, is up to well over 1,500 emails to and from Purpose Partners. I'd like to read to you an example of an email I received after a Purpose Partner attended a recent class. This Purpose Partner wrote, "Dear Tom, I first of all want to thank you and the entire MiTek team, because I do feel this is a team and not just a company, for putting people above profits. In this day and age, this is indeed a rare thing as companies continue to get larger and global, and so often the employees are lost in the shuffle. Myself, not being a spring chicken, have been around a long time and have worked for both large and small companies in several different arenas. And until now, my experience has always been that the larger the company, the less value they place on the individual. What a breath of fresh air MiTek has been. Quite honestly, when I first accepted the contractor position, I was hoping that I could find a place to call home, but didn't really expect to find it in such a large corporation. I couldn't have been more pleased to find out very quickly how MiTek is different. I'm going to be brutally honest at this point and tell you that while I enjoyed the book, had I read it within a few days of starting with the company, I would have taken it with a grain of salt, as I've heard this song and dance before. But it was always just expected that employees treat one another with respect. I had never seen the practice go beyond a supervisor level until I came here. MiTek does indeed walk the walk, from the top down, and that is obviously why it works here and not at other companies. Congratulations on what you've accomplished here, and I look forward to this being my home for years to come. As of May 2017, we've trained more than 1,000 MiTek Purpose Partners in People First leadership. We hold 8 to 10 classes a year and have held them all over the continent. In 2017, classes are being conducted in several locations, a few in Chesterfield, plus classes in Denver, Milwaukee, Montreal, Portland, and Tampa. We've also piloted a People First leadership class for our factory workforce, again, with inclusion in mind, and we call it People First Frontline. I attended the inaugural class graduation in Michigan in the summer of 2016, and it was truly a highlight in my career. Something we're proud of is the sincere belief there isn't a company that will train people better or treat people better than MiTek. And with as many classes as we have, and anywhere from 25 to 50 participants in a class, we recognize the need to have class assistants for Dan. We simply call them People First Champions. And we have now trained more than 20 MiTek Purpose Partners from many of our subsidiaries all over the country to be champions. And People First has spread to virtually all businesses and nearly all locations around the world in one form or another. In fact, when I last visited our operations in South Africa in October of 2016, they thanked me for allowing this culture to thrive in our company. So, my friends, this is a journey. It's ongoing. It's a part of our recent history, and it's fruit born on the vines of our rich past. It's also the fuel that's going to carry us well into the future. In 2013, rather than slow down our People First initiatives, we decided to put the pedal to the metal and ramp it up even more. In 2017, we are now working on a master's level People First leadership class based on Jack Lanham's latest book, soon to be published by Simon & Schuster, called The People First Effect. Dick Marriott and I and Jack have begun to collaborate on the curriculum for MiTek, with the plan to launch the People First Mastery graduate level course in 2018. I'd like to close with this review. In the 1960s, the original founders of the MiTek legacy companies, Cal Juriat and Walter Mullenpaw, couldn't do anything but make the company an idea-driven company. They couldn't help themselves. They were entrepreneurs. In the 1980s, the founder of the modern-day MiTek, Paul Cornelsen, made us into a profit-driven company. It was simply in his professional DNA to do that. Starting in 1991, my predecessor, Gene Toombs III, made MiTek a customer-driven company. Embodying our core value number 2, Gene's passion for customers was second to none. At MiTek, we enjoy what Jim Collins, author of Good to Great, calls the genius of and. So we've remained an idea and profit and customer-driven company throughout our history. In a discussion not too long ago with Dick Marriott, he shared with me that he wondered when I returned to the company in 2009 what signature I would put on MiTek under my leadership. I think he actually said, "I was wondering what your gig was going to be." And that sounds more like Dick. He didn't think there was anything else to add, no other ands, if you will. And I was humbled when he said that he didn't think I could top my predecessors, but then he added, in addition to being idea, profit, and customer-driven, he was amazed that we had now become a people and values-driven company as well. And MiTek will continue to advance our vision and culture well into the future under the capable leadership of Mark Tom. I really didn't do much of anything to bring this about other than get out of the way, allow our purpose partners an opportunity to be themselves by providing a safe environment, empower them, truly empower them. And they know when it's genuine empowerment, not lip service. Remember, they're players, not spectators. And cheer them on by reminding them to be sure to have fun while going about the serious business of MiTek. And then I just watched them transform right before my eyes as they tapped into their deepest potential. As I've stated numerous times, I came back to MiTek for one reason, and one reason only: to make an impact on and enrich the lives of everyone in my care. Little did I know that the greatest impact from allowing MiTek to become a certified People First company would turn out to be how much it's enriched my and my wife Kathy's life. As one of my close Texas friends used to say, you always want to leave the wood pile a little higher than the way you found it. My challenge to you is this: make it your burning desire to add a genuine respect for people and values to the wood stack of ideas and profits and customers. And I promise you, you'll see lives transform right before your eyes, impacted and enriched, and beyond your wildest dreams. MiTek's vision embraces both an internal and external focus, living and working in celebration. MiTek in every structure worldwide. That's what is commonly referred to around the company as having fun while going about the serious business of MiTek. Sir Winston Churchill, quoting George Santayana, said, "Those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it." I believe this is true when it comes to the landmines we may want to avoid in the future. However, our history informs what we've become as a company, who we are as individuals, and what we aspire to be, and more importantly, why we exist. I hope you've learned a fair amount about your heritage as a MiTek purpose partner and will serve proudly for many years to come in the MiTek family. Thank you for listening, and please remember to make today and every day a People First day at MiTek.